As many of you might have already seen, the singer for Coldplay invited a bunch of fans to the stage, and he had a kind of weird reaction to when he found out they were Israelis. The two people from the audience were Israeli. This is the first topic we'll discuss today, but just to give you a little bit more about what's upcoming, we'll also talk about the People's Conference for Palestine, which is this sort of like a annual or semi-annual thing of this organization, and they had, among others, Mahmoud Khalil, and I think some interesting things were said there, so we'll talk about it. We might talk about Greta Thunberg if we have time. She is still trying to go into Gaza, and there is also some movement when it comes to the Judea and Samaria annexation, or more of a threatens to do so, and some Arab states don't like it. Welcome to the reality show. Joining me today are Iyar Reichel and Stuart Margolis. Thank you guys for joining me today. And well, before I go to you guys, let's actually watch the video from Coldplay, and then we'll comment. It's about half a minute.
Where did you come from today? From Israel. Okay, well, wow. Okay, well, listen. I'm going to say this. I'm very grateful that you're here as humans, and I'm treating you as equal humans on earth, regardless of where you come from or don't come from. Thank you for being here. We're grateful, and thank you for being loving and kind. And although it's controversial, maybe, I also want to welcome people in the audience from Palestine, because we have a belief that we're all equally human. And yeah, thank you for being here.
So I have a lot to say about that, but I'm wondering what you guys have to say. Iyar, let me start with you.
Yeah, well, I think he couldn't care less about Israel or about Palestinians. I see it as he just realized that by having two Israelis on stage, he's building up for a PR crisis, and he tried to handle that, and he did a very poor job, and we surely will analyze his poor job of handling this potential PR crisis by stripping people of their identity and giving a shout out to the Palestinians. Yes, this is very dumb, but I think the main issue here is the thing that he was afraid of, and he was afraid of the crazy pro-Palestine gang that will launch a campaign against him, and it will try to cancel him if he would treat Israel by any positive way. So, even implicitly, by having Israelis on stage, so he had to neutralize this threat on him and strip those people out of their nationality. And this is the big problem here, the fact that mainstream artists are afraid of this movement, of these ideas, and the fact that those protests and calls against Israel does not count as some ridiculous shenanigan, but actually being taken seriously. For me, this is the main issue here.
Yeah, and it wouldn't even necessarily be if he treated them positively, but even the fact that he wouldn't acknowledge the sort of the Israeli-Palestinian situation, that would be the problem. And I'm not sure if people could hear it, but of course these girls were getting booed. This is not the first time we're seeing it during the this year's Eurovision, as well as last year's Eurovision. Of course, the Israeli representatives were booed both during their performance and while the voting was happening. So again, something like this is nothing new. Stuart, any of your opening comments on this?
Well, I'm struck. I'm trying to think if there's any other nation that would elicit this response. If they had been from Russia, would they have gotten booed? I doubt it. If they'd been from Yemen or, Iran and anywhere else, would they have gotten booed? It's just astonishing to me that it's okay to do that, that the people felt comfortable to boo where someone was from in that way. That's just bizarre to me. It's just so collectivist. It's, even if someone was from a terrible nation like Iran or Russia, why would you boo them? That, if it was, Putin or the Ayatollah, yeah, but just a random person from a nation that is doing things you don't like, why would you boo them? That's just so collectivist and so wrong. That's what Chris Martin should have acknowledged, is how wrong it was to have that response. But of course, you can't expect that from just a pop musician.
Yeah, but even then, sort of, yeah, as you say, now I don't know much about sort of their, as you said, Chris Martin's like personal beliefs about this conflict. I think some people talked about it, so I don't know how much he sort of like looked into and what his sort of like own views are on this. But as somebody in the chat said, imagine if it was like an Indian person and somebody said, "Oh, shout out to Pakistan," or no, the singer said, "Shout out to Pakistan." Like, I mean, everybody would be completely distraught about it. And even my problem even is that the way he said it, right? Like, "Oh, you're Israeli. Well, I just want to say I'll treat you like human." When was that ever a question? Like, "I'll treat you like a human being." Like, that's like, either he's trying to imply that because they are Israeli, they view Palestinians as subhuman, or I mean, I cannot connect it to anything else. Like, there is this already assumption that that he built in. Not to mention the fact that he had to mention the Palestinians. He couldn't sort of like help himself from it. ER?
Well, as I said, him addressing them as humans was a poor attempt to strip them of any relation to Israel. And it was very cringe because that was his first question, like, "Hey, where are you from?" Like, this question implies it has a meaning. And then he gets an answer. So, okay. So I'm not gonna give it any meaning anymore, even though it was like the first thing I asked you, and I'm just gonna ignore it and I say, "Okay, well, it's great to have a human here. I'm gonna treat you as a human." And it's just such a poor response, such a poor way to treat this. He could have just like, move on, with the show, do whatever. But no, he had to address this in the most pathetic way ever.
Yeah, even sort of like the necessity to like talk about it, right? Like, this is happening, like the war is happening for a few years. Even when it comes to as Stuart earlier said, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, the idea that if there was a Russian or Ukrainian on the stage, that one, that they would get booed, and two, that the singer would have this like step back. Okay, because you are from this one place, now I need to like basically adapt the whole situation. Now it needs to be about the fact that you are from that place. Now again, when he's asking where are you from, it's mostly meaningless question, right? It's just, hey, shout out to wherever you're from. But it's this one nation that they said. And again, I think there was a comment from the girls that they were afraid to actually say they are Israeli among the crowds of tens of thousands. They wanted to say they're from Malta, but then they ended up just saying Israel, and they were right to be afraid of, because again, they were booed. And we'll go into the next topic, and the way the People's Conference for Palestine speak about not Israelis, not Zionists, as they like to say, but Jews themselves, and the way they want them actually to be persecuted and found out around the world. There are organizations like the Hind Rajab Foundation that straight up go around the world and try to basically find every single Jew and go after them. Stuart, any more comments?
No, I think we covered that.
Just quickly, yeah, you send me a few things. Do you want me to
Yeah,
bring it
you
up?
can show the image. Yeah.
Or all right, maybe start talking and I'll, because I need to set it up in a second.
Sure. So there is a quite famous image of Goebbels from Nazi Germany in September 1933. and he is out abroad in Geneva, and he's been photographed, and he just found out that the guy that took the photograph is a Jew. And if you can zoom in on his face, and he's like, well, you know, you can zoom out a little bit so you can see like he's, you know, holding the chair, and all like, you know, shocked and quite scared. And I think, I apologize for comparing a Coldplay singer to Goebbels, but I think they felt kind of a similar way. Like, oh no, he's a Jew. I should handle the situation. And it just, I have nothing to say besides just to condemn the way he handled the situation. This is just very shameful.
I want to jump in. I agree that he handled it poorly, but I don't think that it's coming from the same anti-Semitic place that I think it was coming from with Goebbels. I think it's much more that mainstream liberal everywhere has embraced this idea of Israel as oppressor. And I think he was just scared of running into that narrative and having to deal with that narrative. I don't know. I mean, he could be anti-Semitic. I have no idea. But I
don't think he's anti-Semitic. I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
But it's just like the fact that like, oh no, an Israeli on stage, I need to handle this situation,
right,
and okay, like escape this situation. It's just like, for me, it's very similar.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat says Israel is a political statement nowadays. Being Jewish is politicized, and yeah, it really is. Now it's this thing that basically, yeah, every single, not even every single Israeli, every single Jew has to sort of like carry this. Not, and even that's problematic because the Jewish people haven't done anything wrong. We're not talking about you know, like. The anti-Muslim violence after 9/11 was, or crime was problem, right? The fact that you would take one event and you would extend it to basically 2 billion people, or something like that, is problematic. It shouldn't happen. But 9/11 was actually wrong. We are talking about October 7 and the war afterwards, Israel defending itself, a good thing to do. And this is what's being viewed as like a problematic thing. Like, oh, it's a problem. It's sort of like when people, when I mean, you could extend it to everything. Like rich people have to apologize for actually, you know, having money and employing people and actually like running businesses. It's this like real hatred. I mean, yeah, hatred of the good. Because again, even if you took the Russian example, like there is at least some connection, right? Like, yeah, Russia is actually doing something bad, and if every single Russian was persecuted, again, a bad thing. You don't go after every single person just because they have some, even like not direct correlation, just because they were born in a certain country, or even some connection to it. But specifically here, I think it's the most, one of the most evil sort of things, because again, what is being attacked is something that's good.
It's like meeting someone from New York and giving a shout out to Al Qaeda.
I mean, yeah, it's I mean, absolutely. Again, because it's like, even when we're talking about this conflict, we are not even talking about specifically like, oh, Hamas has started this. No, we, like individual Palestinians, like Palestinian civilians went into Israel on October 7. They were holding Israeli hostages. And again, not the automatic sort of condemnation of Palestinians abroad, although they are not doing a great job of condemning the attacks that were committed by them, and sort of like trying to sort of like step aside or step away from this. Most of them are highly supportive, as we'll go into the next topic. And I guess with that, Stuart, any last thoughts on this before we move on?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But yeah, I would say that again, it's so indicative of the collectivism that is on the rise, unfortunately. You know, this idea that any individual should be booed or persecuted based on just where they're from. You know, no matter how heinous the regime where they came from is, to the idea that they should be held accountable on an individual basis, based on nothing other than the fact that they came from there, is just such an injustice. Even, as you said, even though the reality is probably most Palestinians do support the cause, if I meet an individual Palestinian, I don't make that assumption, and I'm not automatically hostile to them. I mean, it's just collectivism. It's just wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with that, let's move on to the next topic. Although I do kind of have to play this. I was playing in my head if I should, but I think this is another video of the Coldplay singer, I think from some time ago.
Have you ever failed at anything?
Well, if you look up Israel on Wikipedia, everything is still in the present tense. So that's clearly something that they need to work on.
I'm Jewish.
You are Jewish?
Yes.
You are Jewish?
Yes.
Fine, no problem.
I don't know. I don't know if it landed, but when I saw that Coldplay, I immediately jumped back to this clip because yeah, this sort of like you are Jewish, and no, it's fine. It's no problem. Any comments on this, or should I just move on to the
This
next
time I'll treat you as a human being. I'll make an exception.
Yeah.
Made me laugh.
Oh, and funny thing about this specific clip, I'm not sure who everyone saw the movie. It's called The Dictator. Actually, at the end of this, basically, it's about the guy who leads like a dictatorship and he comes to America. And while he was doing this interview with Larry David, at the end, he said, "Bring me Piers Morgan," because Larry David was doing too much of a job as an interviewer, which I think was
Larry King,
really
actually.
Oh, what did I say?
You said Larry David.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
Different
Larry
Jew.
King. Yeah. All the same.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to the second topic. So, again, we have the People's Conference for Palestine. They were doing their second annual meeting that took place during the Labor Day weekend and in Detroit. And they've had many speakers. Funnily enough, they had Nidal Jibor, which for some reason immediately jumped to me because I feel like I've seen that before. And then I realized he is actually part of the now I'm not sure the International Association of Genocide Scholars, who have recently declared that Israel is committing a genocide, which we talked about. By the way, for those who are interested, you can actually become a member of the International Association for Genocide Scholars for like $130 a year. So if we get enough people there, maybe we can change the vote, because I've seen a lot of people are actually becoming members of that association because of that. We have also a video from Mahmoud Khalil, which we'll go to. But generally, what is really interesting about this one is sort of both the association of the far left sort of communist and these sort of like pro-Arab, pro-Palestinian, and essentially pro-Hamas forces. Now, when specifically we go to something they've said during this, they've said, "We all know who they are, whether they are in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Washington, in Germany, in Europe. They need to be locked up. They need to be taken out. They need to be neutralized." Now, again, we've seen this already happen after this conflict. We've seen Jews around the world being actually persecuted. Now, you could say that, oh, no, they just mean the soldiers who are doing so, but no, they mean go after every single one, as we've seen. ER, any comments on this?
Well, all I have to say is that I guess anti-Semitism is cool again. It wasn't cool for around 70 years. The war took a break from explicit anti-Semitism, and now it's cool again.
It's more of a no. Yeah, it was a bit of a not. I mean, I always bring up the example of Kanye West, right? If only Kanye West came out against Jews about 2 years later, he probably would be able. Stuart, any comments on this?
Yeah, it's really hard not to view this as a rise in anti-Semitism. I wish I could come up with another spin on it, but it really does seem like that's what's happening.
So let's actually listen a little bit from Mahmoud Khalil. Just for people who don't remember him, he's one of the people. Now I'm not sure what is the state of that right now because he was supposed to be deported because of because of the new sort of policy by Trump. Now I think to some extent, I think even deportation would be valid, but maybe we can talk about that as well. I don't know where the deportation is right now because basically, yeah, lawyers got involved, and I'm not sure if there is supposed to be more hearings about it, which of course they should be. But yeah, just so people, and I think he's at Columbia University if I remember correctly. But let's listen a little bit from him. And this is at a conference.
Because Zionism only depends by portraying that Israel is a normal state. It's an ordinary state. But our work is to strip that facade until Israel stands exposed as a pariah state, until the Zionist genocidal project and the ideology of supremacy that it's built on collapse completely. Because Gaza has shown the world what resilience looks like, what truth looks like, what it means to refuse erasure, even in the face of genocide, Gaza is the compass. Palestine is the compass. And as we march forward, not as individuals, but as a people, as a movement, as a revolution, until return, until liberation, until victory. Free Palestine.
So yeah, free Palestine at the end, the same phrase said by that killer of the Jewish couple in Washington, D.C. I mean, well, he started with this. Zionism portrays Israel as a normal state, and our job is to expose Israel as a pariah state. Any thoughts on this or other things he said?
Well, the only thing not normal about Israel is the amount of hate and violence, unprovoked, having that against it. I think I see a lot of communist ideas in what he said, the erase of the individual. We're not individuals, we're people, revolution, violent revolution in a sense. And it's no wonder there is a very strong connection between Palestinianism and communism. And I just wanted to point that out. That's the thing that was the most interesting for me in this video. Of course, it's full of nonsense, and when he says, like, for example, supremacism, well, of course, the implication is if the Jews see themselves as like those people with extra rights over the others, but there is like, I think when he see Israel as like a Western state, a civilized state with equal rights, with equal treatment of the law, I think in a way he sees that as the sort of a racial supremacy in his twisted mind, as if those barbaric regimes surrounding Israel and also those regimes by the Palestinian movements, the problem with that, the problem we see with those regimes is racist and supremacist, but it's actually a problem of their ideology and the way they manifest this ideology. And this is also very interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, you know, this is what's problematic. Like, what are they realistically calling for? Because none of these people like America, right? They might go there, they might live there, but none of them view America as sort of like a goal to be. So, what are they really sort of fighting for, Stuart?
Um, yeah, I mean, that's what's so ironic that, free Palestine. Well, none of the countries that, that he is probably admiring in the region are free countries. The people there are not free. The people in Gaza are not free. They're oppressed by their own leadership. They have no concept of what an actual free country is. The also this calling Israel a pariah state. What does that even mean? A pariah based on what? It's like what has Israel done that is warranted this status? That I can't even think of other states that they call a pariah state. It's undefined, and it's just they just obviously hate Israel. Unfortunately, I do think one aspect, and not that it's remotely justified, but what feeds into this idea that that Israel is supremacist, built into the Jewish religion, is this idea that Jews are the chosen people, and I think that has always rankled Christians. So that the aspect of Israel that is religious, I don't think that that's where its legitimacy comes from, and I think that is an easy target for people like this.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned that. Yeah,
I'd like to add something on that. I want to, if we've already talking about free Palestine and freedom and everything, I'd like to bring up the objectivist definition of freedom, and I think it's a beautiful definition. And it goes as follows. Freedom is the knowledge that you can act rationally and nobody will use force to stop you. And I think this is a beautiful definition because this is the most essential characteristics of freedom. And when I think about the history of oppression, it always this way is about the use of force to prevent people from acting rationally, independently, to have ownership over themselves. And you can see how the source of the lack of freedom of the Palestinians is their ideology, is their violent ideology, and their self enslavement. And it starts from the religion, you're a slave for Allah. It comes from collectivism, you're a slave to the Palestinian movement or identity. And this is how they govern themselves. And when they wage a war against the neighbor, it comes from the same place, the enslavement to this time of the neighbors. And I think when such collectivists say free Palestine, they see freedom as in a collective sense, which is the freedom of a collective, the freedom of a certain group to manage how to sacrifice itself or supposedly itself. Like, yeah, when they say people are free, it means, oh yeah, they are governed by their own collective and they're being sacrificed for their own collective. That's how they see freedom, and that's what they want. And it's very clear in what they're saying and in the way they present it. And this is just a very ugly phenomenon, because obviously this is not freedom. This is enslavement. This is coercion. This is violence. It has nothing to do with freedom, but it is branded by freedom because of this racial collective view that is very popular in today's society, and they are just cashing on it in a very ugly way.
Yeah, and I mean, generally, this sort of, and they are very, this connection between communism and this kind of, I don't know what to even like, pan-Arab collectivism or sort of like, Islamism to some extent, because again, this specific organization, Yeah, they apparently they are part or they have their funding linked to the People's Forum, which is in part financed by the Chinese Communist Party apparently, and pro-China propaganda. So again, this and even he said that, right? We will march or something, not as individual, but as this collective group. It really speaks to how, yeah, it is not about, individual Palestinians. It is not about sort of even like freedom for those Palestinians. Because again, when did Palestinians enjoy the most freedom? I believe it was after 67 is when they were actually, like, I believe even Jordanians were relatively free to basically travel to even Judea and Samaria, and Palestinians from Judea and Samaria were free to travel to Tel Aviv and all over Israel. That was one of the most freest, and that was when they were not even full citizens, where they were just permanent residents. Yet they enjoyed much more rights as this sort of like temporary measure in Israel than they ever did in any that they are even enjoying right now, even outside in Jordan, in Lebanon. So again, it's clearly not about individual freedom. And again, they are not even talking in those terms, right? It's this, again, collective, like mystical, free, free Palestine, right, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is indicative of just a general, we talked about the rise in anti-Semitism worldwide. I think there's also a rise in collectivism worldwide. I certainly, I don't follow world politics quite as closely as I do American politics, but I certainly see it in American politics and just American culture in general. Nobody talks about individualism. Nobody talks about individual rights. It's all collectivism. It's all our tribe, our team, our party versus yours, and it doesn't lead anywhere good. History has shown us that.
Yeah, and sort of the way where if you are not being altruistic, if you are not being collectivistic, that is viewed as something problematic. I recently watched, today, a few hours ago, I watched an interview in my country where one politician talked about how, basically, for those who don't know, in Slovakia, when it comes to Slovakia is very like retired people biased to like insane extent. Like I think during the COVID era, they not only established 13th like social security check, basically that you get your 12 social security checks and then you get one on top once a year, and then they added another one on top of that. And she said something like, well, maybe we shouldn't spend so much money when we have like 4% deficit year over year, and we are as a small country, we just got our credit rating like put lower, and we cannot even pay our current debt. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, she is going hard. And that sort of like thing is like automatic. Like if you don't have money, you cannot spend it. Yet because of altruistic fields, because of collectivism, right? You cannot take away money from the poor. You cannot take away, even though this was like a new thing that was added, that was never promised. Once it's there, you can never sort of go back. And in a similar way, look at this integration. If you go to Israel, right? Whenever Israel doesn't let Palestinians know they will get bombed, or doesn't sort of make sure a specific strike was properly sort of checked. That is being put against Israel. There is again this sort of like standard that because Israel is trying to be good, it makes it impossible for them to be good because they've already given in to the standard. And this is what has to be fought, that sort of standard. Yar, any more thoughts on this, or we can move on to Greta?
I just want to clarify. Israel is in a war of self-defense and has any right to take way stricter measures. I mean, like, they have a moral right to disconnect the water, the electricity, the gasoline, they should make sure that no food gets into Gaza. This will make sure that the Gazans will surrender quicker. And this war is taking almost 2 years now, and this is an outrage. It should have been over in a few weeks with us just saying no water, no electricity, no nothing. You can starve until you surrender. And the fact that we did not do that and provide humanitarian aid and alert people before we bomb and do all of those things to save Palestinian lives, we are paying with the lives of our people in Israel defending themselves. And we're being criticized for that by the world, and criticized is a very soft word for what they're doing to us. We're receiving international action against Israel. So this is just an outrage. The whole thing is a moral outcry.
Yeah, and I might have a different sort of opinion on this if that leniency actually achieved something. When it comes to the justice system, oftentimes criminals might get their sentence suspended or get their sentence lowered, or might get some benefits if they sort of lead, if they say something that gives the district attorney like evidence to arrest somebody else, or something like that. So I'm not advocating for like every single prisoner should absolutely be, or every single person who gets arrested should get the harshest sentence ever. There is like a case for leniency there, because it actually gives positive results that overall gives us a safer society. But when it comes to Gaza, majority of Palestinians believe Hamas should not be disarmed. Majority of Palestinians believe October 7 was a good thing. Majority of Palestinians don't think don't think that Israel is the good guy here. So what benefit did Israel get from being so lenient? Stuart?
I think none is the short answer. I think if they had had more moral clarity and decisiveness from the get-go, we'd be in a whole different world now. It just, unfortunately, as you said, by trying to be quote unquote good and lenient, they open the door to oh well, that's the proper thing to do. And so if they fail to do that, then they are suddenly the bad guys. If they had from the get-go been very clear about their moral position and what they were willing to do to achieve victory, I just think it would be a whole different war. I think it would be over by now. So I do blame Israel in that sense. There have been a lot of failures, but in terms of the morality, obviously, as Yar said, this is a war of self-defense. They're completely in the right. How they're executing it, though, I think is worthy of some criticism. But it's a terrible situation, and I mean, given the politics in Israel, which obviously Yar could speak to much better than I can, but there are political realities that may have made that doing the right thing impossible. I don't know, but certainly the way they do it is
it starts with ideas. It starts with ideas.
Exactly.
And Israelis cannot explicitly defend the points that I brought up. They understand it, they know it. They cannot explicitly state the moral responsibility that the Gazans have over themselves. And they just, unfortunately, but hopefully it will change soon.
Well, with that, we have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. And a super chat from Bulmus. Thank you so much. He says, I think what people mean by, quote, free Palestine is, quote, unleash Palestine, unleash terror, hell, savagery, whatever is liberty and happiness. Exact opposite. I mean, it kind of depends, because it's hard to knowingly like hold in your head the idea that you're evil. Like you have to think that you're the good guy. It's real like for people who read The Fountainhead, people like Ellsworth Toohey, it's hard to be such a person and basically go through your life. So they either have to evade what they're actually arguing for, or they actually are viewing killing Jews as something positive, and their sort of ideas are so corrupted now that they've justified this, right? Because it's not uncommon for people to justify violence against peaceful people. We've seen that in the past again and again. So and we've seen what free Palestine actually means, right? Like I mentioned, the person who killed the Jewish couple in Washington D.C. What did he yell? Did he yell "kill the Jews"? Did he yell "death to Israel"? No, he yelled "free Palestine" because he understood what it actually means, or he wanted to put it into practice. Um, should we go to Greta, or any comments from you guys on this?
I agree completely that I mean I think Ayn Rand herself said that Ellsworth Toohey could not exist as a real person. That in reality, human psychology just doesn't allow that level of self-awareness when you're evil. Evil is evasion, and that I think these people are having to evade on a massive scale. And so I think that's what's going on. If you ask them, are you, are you saying kill the Jews? Then no, of course not, because they're evading that. They're evading that. That's a crucial part of what the Palestinian movement is about. So their whole position is completely dependent on evasion.
Yeah, and well, now I completely lost what I wanted to say. Okay, let's move on to Greta. Somebody in the chat says Greta's coming to visit ER, so I'm sure he's glad for the bad weather. I think I'm not sure. I think somebody said that this is like a really good positive of global warming, the fact that there are more storms. And Greta, oh, for those who don't know, basically Greta wanted to go on another flotilla into Gaza, but it was stopped because of bad weather. So great to have that bad weather. Now, I mean, I can just read one of the comments she said. She said that to the Associated Press on Saturday. It has been very clear that Israel has been continuously violating international law by either attacking, unlawfully intercepting the boats in the international waters, and continuously preventing the humanitarian aid from coming in. So again, they are not bringing any humanitarian aid. They like unless they've changed how they're going. But in the first ship that was going, that was like it was a joke. The idea that was humanitarian aid, and even then, Israel should absolutely not allow it and do whatever is necessary to stop it. And honestly, at this point, just arrest them and try to do something in that way, because the idea that they continuously are trying to go into Israel and breach like an actual blockade, like this is not like fun and jokes. This is like a war, and there is like a blockade. Just because they are unable to do real or sort of like actual damage doesn't mean that they should be dealt with kids' gloves. ER?
I want to state an interesting thing that happened in the last time they came. When they got near Gaza, they threw the cell phones to the sea, and an Israeli organization filed a complaint against them into some sort of international organization against pollution, because they were basically, I don't know if it was a crime, but they were committing something that was like not very environmental. So that's just one funny thing. Regarding the amount of aid they bring, it's completely irrelevant for two reasons. The first reason is that unfortunately, Gaza is filled with aid. There are videos of Palestinians taking the aid packages and throw away the flour, since they have so much flour already and they don't want to carry it. And things like this. You can see shawarma stands in Gaza and thriving markets. This is the first thing. The second is that if they do supply aid to Gaza, it's even worse. It's like having flotillas from the United Kingdom sending aid to Nazi Germany. It's completely, the whole morality here is upside down. And of course, the essence of it is this is just a PR stunt. And they want to recreate what happened last time, where Israel basically arrested and deporting them. And then they have said, oh, we are hostages in Israel. That's what they want to say, because they want to basically ridicule and I don't know, point a finger and laugh at Israelis, stating the fact that Gazans still hold 48 Israeli hostages. Out of them, approximately 20 are still alive and held for almost 2 years as hostages. And this is the cynical nature of this flotilla, is doing a PR stunt out of all of the things on this fact and argument of Israel. This is just wicked.
We have a super chat from Enric. Thank you so much. He says, how did the Arabs that abandoned Israel in 48 still persist to the present in their intent to destroy Israel? I mean, the world has been pushing them towards doing so, right? The Palestinians were never told, maybe you should may actually make some deal with Israel. No, it's always no, keep fighting. Or I mean, even the fact that Palestinians were the one who started this whole thing with the first Intifada. So if we depend on when we want, if we want to go sort of like to more individual Palestinians. We have a super chat also from Bull Moose. Thank you so much. He says the people leading those movements are absolutely aware that they are evil. They are fine with it as long as they have support. I mean, again, it depends what you mean by truly evil. Usually you have to sort of, I mean, think of like bad things you've done in the past. You either had to acknowledge that you've done it and that you are going to live with it and you want to move forward despite of it, or but then I cannot talk to you, or you try to evade it, evade that you did evil, and you try to justify it, but then I cannot really talk to you since you're evading that you actually did something bad. So that's why it's impossible to, in a sense, talk to evil people, right? There is no honesty. You can, like, I cannot talk to Ayatollah Khomeini and like tell him like what he's doing is wrong. Like, it's an evasion and like evilness on such a level that there is no way to really talk to them. I mean, talk to people like, or listen to people like Dave Smith when it comes to Israel, because he's like a libertarian. The amount of mental gymnastics you have to do to support the Palestinian territories instead of Israel, and like do it from like a liberty-minded perspective, is incredible. Again, that's another scenario, but there is no way to talk to those people with that amount of evasion. Again, you can only talk to honest people, realistically. Stuart?
Yeah, I absolutely. But I would push back on the idea that they know that they're evil. I think what all of us do when we do even minor bad things, it's always, the ends justifies the means, the greater good. There's always a good that they think they are working towards. I think it's incredibly rare that someone is consciously like, this is an evil goal that I am going towards, and I'm going to work towards this evil goal. I don't think that's how human psychology works, with the exception maybe of a few severe psychopaths. I think there has to be a perceived good that all of their bad actions are going towards.
Bulmos in the chat says, no, they're evil because they know what they are spinning is false, but do it gleefully anyway. Well, we acknowledge they are evil. The conversation is not if they are evil or not. They are evil. We who are not evading the facts can say it. But again, the way they would spin it, again, is this sort of the ends justify the means, right? It's okay to lie or be dishonest or spread propaganda. I mean, this is what's happening in the when it comes to the pro-Hamas propaganda, right? It's okay to spread lies and spread propaganda because this is a genocide, and we have to do whatever is necessary to stop it, right? So this is the way it usually goes. Stuart, any comments on Greta, or do you have more comments on this?
I was just to bring it to a more sane context. I think an objectivist example that is often used is that, it would be not only proper, but it would be really morally imperative to lie when the Nazis come to the door and say, no, Anne Frank is not in the attic. So I think it's akin to that. They think that their lies are serving a good. We know that that's not the case, but psychologically, I think that's what they have to believe in order to function. I just don't think that humans can function and exist in that way without that justification. It's a rationalization. It's wrong. It is evil. No, we're not denying that at all. But just psychologically, I think that that's what's happening.
Any comments on Greta?
Well, I'd like to address what we were talking about. When I look at Palestineism, I can divide it into two big fractions, and there is the Islamist fraction, and then of course it's for Allah. You need to kill the Jews and rid the Middle East of Jews for Allah. It's very simple. And there is the other, which is less religious. It could be either like the PLO or the communist factions, which is just like, we got to do it for the Palestinian collective. It is for the Palestinian collective that we kill the Jews and destroy them and devote a life for the destruction of the Jews in the Middle East. And then there is like the Western pro-Palestinians, which is just, automatic support for the weak, the barbaric, the uncivilized, portraying them as victims, portraying the right respecting strong nation as if it in this position of wealth and success due to oppression, and as if they took something from the Palestinians, which is of course nonsense. And this is the justification. And with this state of mind, they can justify many evils. But, these people are frustrated, are unhappy, are living a very bad life, a mentality of a parasite, of mentality of impotence, of self-enslavement. And these people are very unhappy thanks to their own ideas. And you can see it in the Western movement that support them. You can see how frustrated they are about their life. And you can see the Palestinians, how they keep just put themselves in situations that are extremely horrible, and they carry the moral responsibility for that, of course. And it starts with the idea, they just hold these horrible ideas, that this collective evil, mystical ideas that justify such actions of self-destructions and the destructions of others.
Yeah, and I mean, just to talk a little bit more about sort of this sort of do you think you're evil or not? Something you have to realize also, although how much time do you have? I don't know if I want to. I'll just mention it quickly. Something I find interesting is the idea of sort of if you have been evil, and again, when we are talking about the pro-Palestinian crowd, and this is the importance of really thinking and using rationality, because if you have been committed to evil for years, for decades, the idea or to realize it later, to realize you've done something so evil that's so destructive, like that might be like more destructive to your life than anything before. Like you might be like beyond return. In a similar way, like cold-bloodedly murdering somebody, you are almost like beyond redemption. Like there's like that's almost something you can never take back. But we don't have I don't think that much time to really sort of like spread it out a lot. So Stuart, any more comments? And I guess we'll start wrapping up. So anything else you'd like to bring
Yeah,
up?
I would just say I agree entirely. I think, as we kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent about how human psychology works, I think it's extremely difficult and rare to self-correct after a prolonged period of that level of evasion. I think it hardly ever happens because if you truly realized what you had been doing all those years, you really, it would be very, very difficult to live with yourself at all. And I think the human brain, human psychology is self-protective in that way. So I think it rather than just, the complete collapse that we saw in Jim Taggart at the end of Atlas Shrugged, that is what would happen. That would, a person who really realized would just completely psychologically collapse. And so people don't do that very often. It's extremely rare for someone to self-correct after they've been on such a terrible path for any period of time. It's sad, but I think that's true. It's not impossible, but I think it's extremely, extremely rare.
I know it's a 60-year old novel, but we try to keep the spoilers to a bit of a
Oh, I'm
minimum.
sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, I usually, because I think it's especially with Atlas Shrugged, which is more of a mystery. I think it's a much more, but I don't think it's that big of a spoiler. Yar, any last thoughts from you, and where can people find you?
Well, if you haven't read Ayn Rand novels, I would recommend you to go read The Fountainhead and then Atlas Shrugged. I recommend you to read it in that order as well. I'm Yar Reichel. I am an associate of the Ayn Rand Center Israel. Please visit aynrand.org.il/about to read more about the Ayn Rand Center Israel in English. And I am a member of the Victory Now movement, and I am writing a book called Victory Now. It presents a plan for Israel's victory and, very important, the moral case for such plan and such victory. The book will be out soon in English and in Hebrew. And if you're interested in my ideas or interested in the book or want to support, please visit www.victory.now.
I'll just add one quick thought about the idea of spoilers that I've recently read. If you ever think about when is it okay to spoil something, a good idea I've heard is that you can spoil something if you think that more than half the people of people who would ever watch that or read that specific thing have already done so. So with things like a football match, you can spoil that almost immediately after because usually everybody just watches it live. With shows, you can usually spoil them like a week after because usually that's when most people actually read it. But with classic books, you can never spoil them because infinite amount of people will, like I think Les Miserables and Atlas Shrugged will be read forever. So in that way, I don't think you can ever, that you should ever spoil it. No, I'm harping on Stuart maybe too much, but Stuart, where can people find you maybe?
Yeah, I apologize. That didn't even occur to me.
Okay.
But anyway, I have a Substack, stuartmargolis.substack, and I am on Facebook, and I respond to messages there.
Yeah, this long spoiler speech just came because I heard about it recently, not because Stuart did so.
I'd like to add on that yeah, there is the thing, with the tension and the mystery, and it does have a lot of value, but whether you got it spoiled or not, the dialogues and the plot and the way things are moving on and the ideas presented in the novels and the drama is absolutely worth it.
Yeah,
both are amazing novels. Whether you read, you heard what's happening or not, this book is just such an amazing experience. It's a life-changing experience. So whoever not read it yet, if you listen to this show a lot and you like the ideas, this is where it all comes from.
Yeah, I think even with Atlas Shrugged, even if every single twist has been told, I think it's. I mean, I've reread it multiple times, so I've already spoiled it for myself, and then I read it again and again because it's definitely worth it. So, with that, thank you guys for joining me today. Thank you everybody for watching, and we're actually technically not done yet since we have the cutting edge upcoming. So make sure to join us for that in half an hour. I'll try to quickly post a link in the chat so people can join us. And here people are who want to see. That's in half an hour. And so we'll see you there. Thank you guys again, and bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.